So you all might be wondering what took so long to make this. Well, who writes this crap? Well, got my keys. Oh my god. So with all that said, let's begin. Begin. Mike, that's your cue. Where the fuck is he?
Space unicorn, soaring through the stars, delivering...
Who's texting me? Oh, it's Mike. I can't make it because I closed my account. Right. Great. No!
Hey, Ernie!
Wave! Can't you see I'm doing a cliche Wait a minute. Wave. Do you want to join in on this?
Okay.
Though you gotta show your face.
This is my face.
So, in real life, you're a pixelated person?
Of course!
Well, you know what they say.
Canadians are weird!
Curse you, Ed!
Okay then, do you want to know what we'll be covering?
Yeah, sure.
Well, you're a toku buff, right?
I'm more American to that kind of stuff, but I have dabbled into the toku side every now and again.
Ah! That's even better. Because today, we're going to be comparing Masked Rider and Kamen Rider Dragon Knight.
Wait, why those two?
Well, they were the only times Kamen Rider was adapted for American audiences. For the uninitiated as to what Kamen Rider is, Kamen Rider first came out in 1971 based off of a manga by the same name, which told of two bug-based masked heroes that fight an evil organization known as the Shocker. The franchise would go on until 1989's Kamen Rider Black RX with no new shows in the 90s. Yeah, there were 3 solo movies that came out in that period, introducing new riders like Shin, Kamen Rider Prologue, Kamen Rider Zeo, and Kamen Rider J. Zeo and J are fine. Shin... could possibly give you nightmares. Oh, and a little note, the era that spanned the 70s, 80s, and 90s for Kamen Rider is known as the Showa era, signifying it as the original run of Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider shows wouldn't return until the year 2000 with Kamen Rider Kyuga, thus beginning what is known as the Heisei era, and continues to stay popular in full force today with the newest one, Kamen Rider Ghost, released this year.
So with all that said, let's discuss the origins behind the productions of both of these shows. After the success of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Saban Brands decided to adapt more of Toei's tokusatsu franchises, such as Metal Heroes, which gave us VR Troopers, Big Bad Beetleborgs, and the sequel, Beetleborgs Metallics. There was also Kamen Rider Black RX, the sequel to Kamen Rider Black, which became Masked Rider. That said, Masked Rider also borrows elements from Kamen Rider Zeo and J movies, and we'll elaborate more as to why that decision was made.
Now, some of you might be thinking that the same would hold true for Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, in which case, you would be wrong. That said, Saban was the distributor for Dragon Knight, but the production company behind it was Adnus Entertainment. It is also noteworthy that this is the only show that Adnus ever did. They also plan to bring over more Rider series and a feature-length movie for the show, but that unfortunately never happened. As for what Dragon Knight is adapted from, it was known as Kamen Rider Ryuki.
Now that the backgrounds are done, we can finally get to the nitty-gritty of things.
Which is...
Get down to the nitty-gritty and actually compare and contrast the two shows. Duh.
Alright. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the quintessential part of the show, which is the
story?
No! The theme songs!
Oh, crap. Why did I even bother agreeing to this again?
Anyways, the theme song for Masked Rider goes like this.
Masked Rider. On a distant
distant and embattled planet called Edenoi, a young prince named Dex is given great powers by his grandfather, the king, and is sent to the planet Earth to protect it from the advancing evil of Count Dragon and his vicious insectoids. Once on Earth, he is adopted by a kind family and learns to live as a human. With his companion Phoebus by his side, Dex is ever vigilant, ready at a moment's notice to call on his powers to become Masked Rider.
As you can tell, it's mostly background trumpets with the origin, our supporting cast, and some very monotone singing, if I'm honest. Not really something to get you pumped up for something action-packed, right?
Now, as for Dragon Knight... The Rock has a lot of energy to it, especially when compared to Masked Rider, as well as even showing off all the riders. Also, it's more fluid in its appearance, mostly due to not cramming in the origin story like Masked Rider does.
Alright then, point 1 for Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. But now let's talk about another important factor. The story. We want to see how well each show adapts its Japanese counterpart, as well as, trying to be its own thing. Wave, you want to start with Masked Rider this time?
Do I have to?
Yes.
Fine. Masked Rider tells the story of a young man named Dex from the planet Edenoi, a planet where humans evolved from bugs, and comes to Earth to battle his uncle, the evil Count Dragon.
And much like the Power Rangers, it is up to Dex to stop him. As for being faithful to Kamen Rider Black RX, kind of, sort of, not really. Then again, it'd be hard to tell if it weren't for this show's atrocious editing. You see, this show was cheap. And I mean cheap. Like, they could not afford 99.9% of the monster costumes cheap. The only costumes they had from Kamen Rider Black RX were Black RX's 3 forms, Shadow Moon, and 1 monster costume. That's it. Just to give you a taste of this show's cheapness, here's a sliver of it.
It'll take more than that to defeat me, Destructosphere.
Look out! In a hurry, I'll give you a lift.
Holy shit, that was disgusting. Now, character-wise, Dex is similar to Kotaro in Black RX. Both are aliens trying to adapt into human society, though this is Kotaro's 2nd season in doing so. Both live with a random family for the entire series, and both shop at the exact same outlet. The real reason for their attires being the same, though, is due to the limited budget and to better blend the American footage in with the Japanese footage.
Aside from that, the only thing that's faithful is the battle scenes, which were all Japanese stock footage from Black RX, with maybe some Zeo and J thrown in here and there.
Even on its own merits with what Saban actually did make up, it does try to be lighthearted, though rather unsuccessfully. For instance, in Black RX, the main villain, Count Dragon, or General Jarg as he was known in Black RX, was a violent villain who would even go as far as to severely hurt his monsters on a daily basis.
But the weird thing, though, is we get introduced to the other 2 characters in the background, and Count Dragon is talking to them, but all of a sudden they comply, and they walk away limping like they were in pain. And this was obviously happening because in Kamen Rider Black RX, Count Dragon's character obviously attacks people in order to give them pain because obviously they failed to what they were doing in that episode, and that's the reason why the blue guy and the woman simply walk away in pain.
He could easily give Rita and Zed a run for their money. In Masked Rider, that stuff was cut out. Because they didn't want parents complaining like they do in Lawrence Aid. Other times there was... Phoebus.
This Thing is a friend of Dex who tags along to Earth and for the rest of the series serves as the comedic effect. I mean, Furbus is kind of cute, but that's all I can really say about him. He's comedic effect that doesn't do much in a plot that can be reduced even more to Saved by the Bell with explosions than Power Rangers. At least Power Rangers, even in the early days, had characters that you gave a crap about and weren't just those things that you saw in brightly colored spandex. That and they raised the stakes. Masked Rider doesn't do that. Well, except for this. Dex's cartoonish voice doesn't help matters either, as it grates your eardrums like the crying child you were forced to sit next to on the bus. It might be fine the first few times, but after a while, oh boy.
Make it stop!
On another note, Dex later gains 2 additional modes in the series as the monsters get tougher. He gets these when his grandfather the king sends a crystal to him, which in turn activates the new mode. These modes are known as Masked Rider Super Gold and Masked Rider Super Blue. Super Gold pretty much just makes Dex stronger and gives him a gun instead of his lightsaber-like sword. Super Blue, on the other hand, is very different, as it allows Dex to liquefy like he's the T-1000.
There were 2 other modes in the show, but it was just scenes from Z-O and J where they were trying to blend footage from both movies with the American-made footage, and did a poor job at it since it's painfully obvious that Black RX looks nothing like either one of those.
Now, Dragon Knight, on the other hand, is actually pretty faithful to its Japanese counterpart, with some differences, of course. The basic idea from Ryuki is still here. Monsters invade Earth from some mirror dimension via anything that reflects. The difference being that in Ryuki, the monster's native land is the mirror dimension, that being the land of Ventara.
In Dragon Knight, they're aliens from the planet Karst that tried enslaving Ventara after coming to Earth. Frankly, it would have made more sense to just stick with what Ryuki had and make the monsters native to Ventara. Seriously, what's the point of making them aliens from another planet? It's just complicating things for the sake of complicating things. On the plus side, though, there was an actual freaking budget for this show. This show was actually able to afford more than one costume, especially costumes that were only used once, or Ryuki, such as the feminine Ryuga suits, for instance. Another advantage to having a better budget is that it could afford better actors. They really didn't skimp out on the acting. It's probably on par, if not better, than the best acting shown in Power Rangers RPM, which coincidentally was running at the same time. No one sounds like an obnoxious cartoon character, nor do most of the lines come off as cheesy and possibly cringeworthy.
As for our main hero, he goes by the name Kit, an 18-year-old with the reputation of being a thief. Kind of like a younger version of Scott Lang from Ant-Man. After he gets kicked out of his foster parents' house, by the way, the reason he was with foster parents is because his dad has been gone for years, unexplainably. We'll get to that later. So after that, he goes to his father's old place where he finds this chunk of black plastic. This thing is supposed to be a card deck. Couldn't they have just referred to it as a card holder? Anyways, while this is all happening, he's followed by a red dragon that only appears in reflections and meets this guy named Len, or his rider name, Kamen Rider Wing Knight. At first, Kit and Len don't get on the same foot, despite how badass Len just was. Kit falls into a reflection and turns into what has been dubbed as Blank Knight, and struggles in battle. He does establish a contract with the Red Dragon, whose name is Drygretter. After that, Kit is able to use Drygretter's power in the form of special abilities, such as his finisher move, the Final Vent. The typical and classic Kamen Rider way of finishing a monster off is with a Rider Kick. But that's not all!
Kit can also summon parts of Drygretter to use as weapons, such as a sword, shoulder-mounted shields, and a cannon. In addition, he has an ultimate mode known as Survive Form. This makes him stronger and able to use multiple weapons and cards. Both him and Wing Knight are the only ones that have a Survive Form. The other riders in the series also have this ability with their respective contract beasts, though since this is a series with 13 riders in it, we'll spare you guys the boredom and all the nerdy crap. Back to Kit himself, he later discovers in the series that the reason his father has been missing is due to Xaviax, the series' main antagonist. Kit's dad has been held captive for quite some time. Yes, it's the missing parent cliche that a bunch of us have probably gotten sick and tired of due to it being really repetitive. Why does this keep showing up?
Because you touch yourself at night.
And you know this how?
I might have. Oh, I don't know. I might have been peeking your room once or twice. Tee-hee?
I will skin you for that.
Oh, a pixelated guy is gonna hurt me. I'm so scared.
You use Marco as an avatar.
Your main avatar's real name is Dick.
Speaking of, we're going off topic.
Where were we again?
Kit Kat's ghost dad.
Oh, right. Anyways, Kit's dad does eventually get out thanks to Kit's friend Maya, and afterwards, Kit has a makeover! In this case, we've ditched the red with some black to all black. Because Batman. And maybe an obvious Spider-Man 3 joke that thank God doesn't have the main hero turning into a goofy emo. Actually, this costume shown here was a different character altogether in Ryuki. He was known as Kamen Rider Ryuga, who was basically an evil Ryuki who appeared in the Kamen Rider Ryuki special, 13 Riders. In Dragon Knight, it's a new costume for Kit because the original Dragon Knight, known as Adam, came back and reclaimed his role as Dragon Knight. Adam is also the reason Len, at the beginning of the show, didn't trust Drygretter at first because Adam supposedly betrayed the other riders. Though, trust me, he does regain their trust. This form is known as Kamen Rider Onyx, and he even gets another Drygretter, or Drag Blacker in this case. So, yeah, the show crew decided to make what was originally a bad guy suit into a purely good guy suit. Why not have the Onyx suit be something akin to a Black Lantern ring or the Venom symbiote? You know, try to have it possess Kit? Nothing about it screams good guy due to all the dark colors and those deathly red eyes he has behind that face guard.
Maybe he is trying to be like Batman.
Maybe, if Wing Knight turns out to be Nightwing!
Oh god.
Anyways, I think we've driven in that Kamen Rider Dragon Knight is clearly more superior in the story department. So,
Now let's look at the thing that is seen in every episode.
hot chicks?
Well, Siren is lovely. I mean, no, you idiot! The costumes!
Oh. One day, my rider beauty. One day.
Okay, so before Ernie shoves his dragon dagger where no one wants to see it,
I will shove this thing up your fucking ass.
let's talk about the costumes. Now for this category, we're only going to focus on the main heroes of this series because if we were to go over all the riders, we'd be here all day. So instead, we'll compare the main forms of Masked Rider and Dragon Knight. Another note is that we will be judging these costumes by the standards of the eras each was released in. The Masked Rider forms will be judged by the Showa era standards, and Dragon Knight's forms will be judged by the Heisei era standards. No, I don't care how it's pronounced, I'm not Japanese!
Now, the typical Kamen Rider look is bugs 99% of the time, with some exceptions here and there. Even when the theme is cars, for instance, like in Kamen Rider Drive, the bug eyes are still maintained. Now, in the Showa era, the constant theme for the most part was just bugs with some variation here and there. The Black RX costume is meant to be an upgrade to the black costume in Kamen Rider Black RX, though it obviously wasn't an upgrade in Masked Rider. On its own, it's a nice looking bug guy. There's nothing that I'd call offensive about it besides the fact that for someone called Black RX, they're sure a lot more green than black. That and the neck design has a bit of a hunchback look to it, but overall it's clean and gets the point across.
However, the Heisei attempted to take the suits to another level. Yeah, the bug motif remains intact for the most part, though they mixed it in with the season's theme and have more to them compared to the Showa era suits. In Dragon Knight and Ryuki's case, all of the suits have remnants of medieval knights. As for Dragon Knight himself, while he does have the Night Eye visor, you can easily make out the Kamen Rider bug eyes underneath it. As for the rest of his costume, it feels a little bare. There's not much else going on with the design aside from the torso armor, which almost looks like a bulletproof vest, and his card reader mounted on his arm. It's not as flowing as the Black RX costume, and because of that, Masked Rider finally gets on board.
And now the only way we could possibly end this is to talk about the endings.
My god, is that cheesy. I mean, what's next? More phenomenal?
Now that's just stupid. For this is kind of tricky. You see, for Masked Rider, the original intended finale for the show was Invasion of Leewood, though obviously it wasn't the last episode for Masked Rider, as 3 more episodes came out after that.
For Dragonite, there's just too many damn choices. I mean, there's parts 1 and 2 of For Ventara and Earth, and A Dragon's Tale, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll focus on For Ventara and Earth Part 2.
Invasion of Leewood is a somewhat decent finale to Masked Rider, as it shows Dex finally taking out Count Dragon and his goons and living peacefully on Earth at the end of the episode. It actually kind of follows the finale for Black RX in both good and bad ways. The good ways as in how the story is structured and how it gets from point A to point B. The bad ways as in problems that have plagued the show from the beginning, as well as new problems, which was the introduction of the Masked Rider Warriors. You see, the Masked Rider Warriors are all of the Showa-era riders. But there's a problem. It suffers from Super Megaforce Syndrome. What do I mean? I mean introducing something that only showed up in Japan to American audiences and treating it as if it's been there the entire time. It raises many questions like, why didn't they help Dex all throughout the series? Where did they come from? Where were they all this time? And why the hell are all their names mixed up?
I am Masked Rider Warrior Leader at your service.
I am Warrior Commander. I am B3.
I am Rider Man. I am Masked Rider X.
I am Amazon. Strongman at your service. I am Z-Cross.
But aside from that, it finally ends the series as it should. Dragon sends what supposedly is most powerful monster to destroy Dex, and at first, Dex gets his ass handed to him, until the Masked Rider Warriors show up. After taking a break, Dex gets back into action, but fails. To remedy this, he showers. Just like in the chat! As a result, Dex transforms into his super blue form and destroys the monster from the inside, and the Masked Rider Warriors go off to do Masked Rider stuff. We then see Dex having a conversation with his grandfather, the King, and the possibility of Dex having a son.
Son! Isn't Dex in high school?
Well, yeah, but there's a reason stuff like 16 and pregnant exists.
Why do you do this to me? Anyways, let's move on to Dragonites for Ventara and Earth Part 2. This episode revolves around Ubalon, this season's Zordon equivalent, fighting Xaviax in the control room, because control room logic. The other riders come in to help him, but have to get past swarms of monsters as if it's a video game. At first, Xaviax has the upper hand and kicks Ubalon's ass. Then Dragonite, Onyx, Wing Knight, and Siren show up to help their master. They do a better job battling Xaviax, but they still get their asses kicked too. Fortunately, while those 4 were fighting Xaviax, Ubalon was able to open another portal so the other riders could join in. So now that all the riders are ready to fight Xaviax, he decides to be a prick and try to trick them into not attacking him. Of course, the riders aren't morons, so they use their link fence to finish him off. After that, Ubalon gives the audience some sequel bait, to a sequel that never happened, mind you, and the episode ends. Frankly, this feels more whole than Invasion of Leewood due to it not containing any problems that had plagued the series, consisting of 2 parts instead of 1, and having the audience feel more satisfied. Except for that sequel bait.
I am still waiting for a spin-off. And maybe a movie. Maybe have the spin-off be based off of Phi's, Double O's, whatever they feel to do.
Yeah, that's not happening. They did initially plan on a movie, like you said earlier, but that fell through. Also, I am the only one here that is a Red Lantern, Ernie. Don't you dare try to out-anger me! But to close this out, Kamen Rider Dragonite has won 3-1.
So why did Dragonite win? Well, Dragon Knight is a show that's well structured, has good characters and character development, has good thought behind it, and tries to be its own thing without trying to just be Power Rangers. Sure, the focus could get a little messy at times, mostly with Adam returning and Kit taking up the role as Onyx, but it's consistent for the most part. I do highly recommend you check it out and or binge watch it whenever you get the chance. But where does this leave Masked Rider? Well, Masked Rider is just a terrible series. Period. There's a reason it's regarded as the worst tokusatsu adaptation ever created. Now don't get me wrong, I am aware that the show has its fans and I'm perfectly fine with that. Hell, I'm not afraid to admit that I like certain things that a fandom normally frowns upon, such as Transformers Armada for instance. But for Wave and I, this is just not our cup of tea. The editing is atrocious, I don't care all that much for the characters, and it hasn't aged all too well. So I guess that wraps things up. Anyways, I'm a Illini guy.
And I'm the Mountie.
And I hope you guys enjoyed. And here's to the next wave of videos.
Well, good luck with that. Oh, and also, Zeo is the worst tokusatsu adaptation ever. Bye!
Oh, those Canadians.